name is Ella Burns. Today's speaker enjoys baseball and has been playing his whole life. He first began interested in his talk about 5 years ago when he made the decision to go vegetarian and wanted to learn more about the benefits for your health as well as the environment. Here to share his talk, entitled Reducing Meat Intake, How You Can Save the Earth and Yourself, is your Chapel Talk Speaker of the Day, Samuel Dominic Cohen.
Meat. Pretty common, right? You can have it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But have you ever thought about what all that meat can do to the environment and your body? Reducing demand for meat can help the environment by reducing greenhouse gases released while producing it. Eating less meat also significantly reduces the chances of getting conditions such as heart diseases, type 2 diabetes, and high blood pressure. Consuming less meat is better for you and the planet because it can save the Earth's resources, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and improve overall health. Producing meat requires a substantial amount of resources. The main assets that meat production uses are feed, water, and land. Reducing demand for meat industries by consuming less meat can help preserve some of these materials. To make a quarter-pound hamburger, 13.5 pounds of grain are used to feed the cow. Most beef industries primarily feed their cattle corn and grain. People have debated that instead of feeding cows so much grain and corn, they could help address the human hunger crisis by feeding humans that food. Some advocates say that grass-fed cows are a more sustainable method than grain-fed cows, and grass-fed cows can use the land that is not able to grow other crops. However, grain-fed beef is cheaper, so people tend to buy it more. Also, if all beef was grass-fed, the meat industry would need over 200,000 more square miles of land, so it would not be any more beneficial to the environment because it would lead to more deforestation. Michelle Mackin, a board-certified internal medicine physician, said, quote, "The current food system based on meat and dairy production also contributes to world hunger. The majority of crops grown worldwide go toward feeding livestock, not feeding people," end quote. Another important resource that the meat industry uses too much of is water. To produce a pound of beef, 2,000 gallons of water are used, which includes the water that is used to grow the crops. For 1 pound of pork produced, 576 gallons of water are used. By consuming less meat, industries would not have to pump nearly as much water. The third resource that the meat industry destroys is land. For a quarter pound of beef, 64.5 square feet of land are required, which includes the amount of crops a cow eats. The WWF, Worldwide Fund for Nature, wrote, quote, "Extensive cattle ranching is the #1 culprit of deforestation in virtually every Amazon country, and it accounts for 80% of current deforestation," end quote. This is a big problem because the Amazon forest is one of the most important rainforests in the world, and destroying it can cause irreversible effects. Deforestation is a major problem the world faces, and cattle ranching is a big part of it. Livestock use is 30% of the Earth's surface. Most of the land is used for permanent pasture, but 33% of the land is used for producing feed for the livestock. In Latin America, 70% of the Amazon has been transformed into areas for livestock. In addition, meat not only uses lots of resources, it releases lots of greenhouse gases into the environment. Climate change is one of the biggest problems the world faces, and the way we eat can help slow it down. 14.5% of man-made greenhouse gases are from livestock production, which is around 7 gigatons of carbon dioxide. 1 gigaton is equal to 1 billion tons. Around 44% of the greenhouse gases released from livestock is in the form of methane. 27% of emissions from livestock is carbon dioxide, and the last 29% is nitrous oxide. Methane is worse for the environment than carbon dioxide because it absorbs heat from the sun much more efficiently. 2 decades after methane is released, it becomes 84 times more potent than carbon dioxide. Damien Harrington, an editor for The Guardian, wrote, quote, "Livestock food damages the environment from greenhouse gases, deforestation, water shortages, and vast ocean dead zones, which is from agricultural pollution," end quote. Scientists have warned that we need to help keep global temperatures from rising 1.5 degrees Celsius. But even if global temperatures rise half a degree, dire consequences will occur. These consequences include, but are not limited to, a significant increase in chance of droughts, floods, and extreme heat. Researchers found a way to help keep the temperature under control through diet. It is called a flexitarian diet. This means the average world citizen would eat 75% less beef, 90% less pork, and half the amount of eggs. If this happened, this would cut half of the emissions from livestock. And if there was better management for manure, this would allow further cuts. 90 to 95% of methane released from cows is from burping, while 5 to 10% of methane from cows is from their manure. Reducing meat intake can also help your overall health. The first health issue that reducing meat can help prevent is type 2 diabetes. 38% of Americans have prediabetes. This occurs before type 2 diabetes. Animal proteins, especially found in red and processed meat, is shown to increase the risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Researchers from Finland studied the diets of over 2,300 men from ages 42 to 60. At the beginning of the study, none of the men had type 2 diabetes, but after 19 years, 432 of the participants developed type 2 diabetes. Many people think that this is just unlucky or it's a coincidence. However, the researchers who did the study discovered that the subjects who ate more animal protein and less plant protein had a 35% greater risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Not only do red and processed meats increase the chance of diabetes, so do unprocessed red meats, white meats, and organ meats. 79,535 deaths occur each year from complications from diabetes. Adults who have developed type 2 diabetes have a high risk of death from heart attacks or strokes. Diabetes can cause vision loss, kidney failure, and lower limb amputations. Another health risk of eating meat is high blood pressure, also known as hypertension. Blood pressure is how much force is needed to keep the blood flowing through the blood vessels. The pressure depends on any resistance on the blood that would make the heart work harder. Around half of the adults in the United States have high blood pressure. High blood pressure is a big risk for heart diseases, strokes, heart attacks, and heart failure. During a study, researchers measured the blood pressure between the participants who stuck to a vegetarian diet and the other participants who ate a diet that contained meat. They measured the blood pressure in millimeters of mercury. Systolic blood pressure is the pressure the arteries face when the heart contracts. For systolic blood pressure, the researchers saw that the vegetarian's blood pressure is 4.8 millimeters of mercury lower than the omnivore's blood pressure. For the pressure the arteries face in between heartbeats, called diastolic blood pressure, researchers found that the vegetarian's blood pressure was 2.2 millimeters of mercury lower. Reducing blood pressure by 5 millimeters of mercury leads to 9% lower risk of heart disease. It can also lead to a 14% lower risk from death of a stroke. Heart diseases are the main reason for death in America. Around 630,000 Americans die from heart disease every year. This means 1 in every 4 deaths in America is from heart disease. People who eat red meat produce a chemical called TMAO. This chemical is proven to raise the risk of heart disease. In a study, people who were fed a diet that consisted of high amounts of red meat had high TMAO levels. Some people even had 10 times the amount of TMAO after spending a month eating red meat. However, this did not occur with the people that are fed poultry, fish, or vegetarian diets. After a month of not eating red meat, their TMAO levels dropped. Eating less red meat can help reduce the amount of TMAO, which will reduce the chance of developing heart disease. In conclusion, if everyone takes the leap to eat less meat, it can help save the environment, save the resources of the earth, and last but not least, improve overall health. People do not have to cut meat out completely. Eating one less meal a day, then working down to several days a week without meat can help the earth and your health significantly. So are you going to take the step? Thank you.